Hello and welcome to the training for SAT School Day for accommodated testing. You should have a manual that looks like this. Obviously, it's not going to have my name on it, but it will also have some other writing on the front, such as breaks as needed, a script, and then a letter up in the right corner determining which manual you have. That'll determine the accommodations that you are working with in the classroom that you will be proctoring. If you don't have that in front of you right now, please get that. You are going to want to have that in front of you while you're doing this training so that you can take notes and make sure that everything is appropriate for what you're supposed to be doing. All right, I'm going to go through parts of this manual. I've highlighted some things. I've put some notes in here. I'm not going to talk about every single thing in here. It is important that you go through this and that you read what is in here so that we can ensure that we are doing unified, standardized testing. And it's important that you know what you're doing because as a proctor, you are responsible for everything that happens in that room, all the students, all the tests, all the materials. You are responsible and accountable for all of those. So it's important that you know what you're doing. The SAT does have three portions to it: the evidence-based reading and writing, math, and there is an essay. Those will look a little bit different depending on the accommodations that you have in your room. So we'll go through that in each test. It is important that you pick up the materials in the cafeteria on the day of the test after 6:45 and before 7:10. We've told the students testing will start promptly at 7:20. So you want to make sure you have them in enough time to get to the room, get things set up, and be ready for them so you can start right away. During the test, and what I'm going to do here is go through something that's common for all of the tests, and before, and then after, and then I'll let you fast forward to a different spot pertaining to your accommodation. So you're going to prepare the testing room. You're going to assign the seats for student at random or pre-arrangement. We suggest pre-arrangement using the seating cards that we'll give you. Never allow them to select their own seats. You do need to post some information on the board: the date, the school name, our AI code, which is 143796, three-digit testing room code that's on your roster, along with some additional information. Make sure you have that posted. If you're in a pre-recorded audio room, you will have to post some additional information as listed here and also at the top of this next page. It is important, as I said before, that you study and prepare these scripts. I'm not going to go through everything, but you do need to make sure that you are familiar with this. There are 3 different times that you're going to count the materials when you receive them in the cafeteria in the morning. Make sure you count them before you leave so that we can get any discrepancies addressed when you distribute them to the students, and then when testing is complete, as highlighted in the bullets here as well. If there are any missing test materials, you're going to see me right away, and we will get those taken care of so that everything can run smoothly in the classroom. Regarding those materials, you're not going to distribute them until you're instructed to do so in the scripts. We'll go through the scripts information here about what different scripts are and how they're used. You will only have one script in front of you right now. We've kind of split the manual up so that you have just the script that you need. You don't have to make that distinction on your own. Again, as you admit students to the room, make sure that you are assigning their seating. They're powering off their phones. Make sure they're in the correct room. If they're not on your roster, don't let them in. Even if they tell you that's the room they're supposed to be in, send them to a hall supervisor. They will have master rosters. They'll be able to get those students to the correct room. You, again, will have 2 rosters. It's important that on both of those rosters, you mark P for present, A for absent. One of those will be put out for attendance, and the second stays with the box. So it is important that you do that on both of those. If students arrive late, you can let them in as long as you haven't started the timed sections of the test, which should be the first 20 to 30 minutes, because you do have some bubbling to do before that happens. After about 7:45, we will hold students and not even allow them to the testing rooms. You're going to monitor and time the test accurately. Students must be given the entire amount of time. So if it's a 60-minute test, even if the students are all done at 40 minutes, they have to allow that 60 minutes to expire so they have the opportunity to do that. If you're in a double time room and that 60-minute test is now 120 minutes, Even if there's only one student in that room who's done after 60 minutes, the full 2 hours needs to expire before you move on. Record start and stop times, announce the remaining time as required, walk around. You're going to monitor breaks, post that time. Again, walk around, make sure they close their books and put the answer sheets inside of them. They don't access their phones. They are allowed to eat and drink during the breaks, but they need to step out of the room to a pod area 6 feet from other students, just as we would do any other time eating. If they need to use the restroom, one or two at a time, hall supervisors will be out there to monitor that. Again, you're going to count materials. You're going to complete the testing room materials report. We'll show you that later in this video, and complete these parts of that as well. Calculator information is here. We are not supplying a calculator. Students need to provide their own. If they don't have one, it's okay. All questions can be answered without a calculator, but they do need to make sure that they have that information. You may have some students that are approved for a 4-function calculator, that if they have that, they can use that on the non-calculator portion of the exam. More information here. There are 3 scheduled breaks, a 10, a 5, and a 2. And if you have different break accommodations in your room, those may look differently. If students take an unscheduled break, so during the test they need to use the restroom or something, they can do that, but they don't get any extra time. Only one student at a time. Make sure you collect the materials. Don't leave those materials unattended. So administering accommodations. Some of you will have computers, or the students will bring their Chromebooks if they're doing the pre-recorded audio. Some students have ability to print their essays and type those rather than write them out. Information here about that. Some of you, again, are in the pre-recorded rooms. Here's information about launching that material. On the day of the test, Ben and Tanis are going to be available as floaters to move to all the different pre-recorded rooms to make sure you get set up and things get started without any difficulties. Regarding breaks, we've referenced this before. In some cases, your students might have extra breaks, in which case there's more than just the 10, the 5, and the 2. There's other breaks that are built into the script. That's the same as the extended time students receive. So if the students got extra breaks and 50% extended time, those extra breaks are already built into that extended time. Some students get extended breaks, which means you're going to double that. So a 10-minute break is now a 20-minute break. If students want to resume from that sooner, they can. You need to make sure you give them at least the standard break time, and do not prompt them to end sooner. That's up to the student. And then some students have breaks as needed. All of these students will be in a one-on-one testing situation. They can break anytime they want. Here's where the unscheduled break is different for these students with breaks needed, because the clock does stop for them, because that's the accommodation they have. All right, so extended time, if you've got that, again, students need to be given the entire time. That's something that we've talked about before. Some other notes on large print or electronic devices. We have a couple of students that have a human reader. If you're in one of those rooms, you will have a reader's script provided to you. This will be a one-on-one setting. We also have some students that have scribes. Additionally, a one-on-one setting. Information here about how to record and what students need to dictate to you. Maintaining security, you're going to follow the scripts. You're going to be vigilant. I'll have someone in the room at all times. Monitor the materials. Don't let students access their phones. Again, monitoring students. More information if your students if you have one of the students has the ability to type their essays. Watch for copying. Report irregularities. If there's any problems that you think is an irregularity, please see me right away. I'll help you make that determination and complete the irregularity form if need be. Prohibited devices, a lot of information here. If the warning's already been given and you see students with a prohibited device, it's important to contact me or Sarah. We will help you make the determination as to what steps to take. Do not dismiss the student on your own. Let us help you make that decision. Do not inspect the device. We don't want to put you in that situation. We'll call on the deans if we need to do something like that. In regards to prohibited devices, a couple things to point out. Bluetooth devices such as wireless earbuds. This has been a problem in some rooms in the past. Students will keep their music running on their phone and have even the phone that's turned into you, and then they'll be having their earbuds in while they're taking the test. So you got to watch for that. Also watch for wearable technology. such as smartwatches. This is something that also needs to be turned off and put away. In terms of device collection procedures, we're going to follow option 2. The students will keep them in their bags, but you're going to collect their bags. You're going to put them at the front or the side of the room. If they don't have a bag, third bullet here, label the item and collect that individually. We'll provide you with some plastic bags to do that with. We do have a few students that have the ability to keep an EpiPen with them. Those need to be placed in a clear bag stored under their desk. You'll be given information if you have a student in your room with that accommodation. On the day of the exam, you're going to start right here. This is same for everyone. There's some pre-exam administration information that needs to be done for everyone here. So you're going to follow through with this information. You will read what's in the shaded box. As you can see, there's some information outside the shaded box that's for you. And there's some spots where I've crossed some things off because you're not going to read that, such as here, because we're going to collect belongings. So you're going to read A. We do have some information the students will follow. They'll pre-administration. They do have pre-labeled answer sheets, so you need to make sure they get the answer sheet with their name on it. We have not done a pre-administration session, so nothing has been filled in yet. There are a few students who will not have a label because they started school later after these were printed by the state. We do have to complete fields 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You may have an issue here if you have a Compass student in your room. They might say, but I don't attend this school regularly. And the answer to them is going to be, you're going to fill in yes, because you are still considered a North High School as your home school. So that's how they're going to complete that one. Fill in some other information here, and then give each student the appropriate test material in serial number order when you are asked to do so. Make sure you give each student a test. Do not give them a stack to pass down the row because, as I said, you're going to have to record where each serial number is. So you need to give the students the tests 1 to 1. School code, room roster, or testing room code, you're going to record all that information there. Continue with this information in terms of completing some more fields on their answer sheet. For this section here, this is where things are going to change a little bit. If you're in a pre-recorded room, at this point, you are going to jump to page 70 on your script. The rest of you are going to follow along here. It is important that for this set of instructions, the students copy the codes properly. If they don't have the right form code, test ID, and serial number, their tests won't be scored accurately. So it's important that you check that, make sure that they are filling that in properly. All right, so we'll continue that, complete that prior to testing. If you do have a student with a scribe or a human reader, you're going to read the appropriate section. That's the before test part. I'm now going to go over what you're going to do after the test. And then, like I said, we'll have specific information on your scripts. So after the test, then, again, this is everybody coming back together. This is all the same. If you have a student that requests to cancel their test scores, there's a form for that. See me, I'll get that for you. This is rare. In the years that I've been doing this, we've had less than 5 students that have made that request. All right, I'm going to collect test materials as it tells you. All of our students, like I said, we did not do a pre-administration session, so all of our students are going to need to complete some sessions here. As you can see, it says down at the bottom, though, we're only going to complete through field 15 because our students do not have parental consent, which is something you need to have to complete the survey portions in 16 through 19. So make sure that they don't complete that information. You can see I've crossed them off here. You're going to collect answer sheets at the correct time. As you're collecting them, make sure that they've completed fields 1 through 9 that they did before the test. Make sure they completed those form codes and other fields that are essential. Keep them seated. Make sure you've got everything returned from all of the students. Again, returning belongings. After they leave the room, then you still have some work to do. So if you have any students to prove the right answers in their book, here's the information there. And then typed essays, information here if they have that. But more importantly here, complete and sign the testing room materials report form and the seating chart. We'll go over those in just a minute. Make sure you've got all of this information set and completed. You're going to return your materials to the cafeteria where you pick them up. In the manual that you've got information on acceptable calculators and then irregularity chart information as well. Several pages of that for you to familiarize yourself with prior to testing so that you can address any issues that happen in the room. Talked about the distribution of test materials several times in the seating chart. You're going to need to complete this. Here's where you're going to put the serial number, as you can see on the example, of where each serial number is in the classroom. And then you will also need to complete the testing room materials report form. We will have most of this information printed out for you already. We'll tell you these are the books that we're giving you. These are the serial numbers and the number. You're going to put, these are the serial numbers that I'm returning and the number of unused that get returned. As I said before, you have to make sure you sign this when you bring this back. At this point, then, we're going to talk about specific parts of the test for the different scripts. So you can pause and advance to the proper spot for your script at this time.